If we've learned one thing in this past year, it's about the need to find a way of life that can be maintained. A job, a schedule, a balance that benefits all aspects of our life. Because here we are, in glorious spring, flowers are blooming, birds are making nests. There are signs that the circle of life continues in Iowa. Hi, I'm Lori Johns. Today, we're talking about sustainability. You know, sustainability is important, not just to gardeners like me who keep track of buds, blooms, and birds. Sustainability is important to Iowa pig farmers, too. They know sustainability in farming is expected by you, their consumers. Sustainability in pig farming isn't just about finding ways to bring more bacon to your family table. It's about raising animals that are part of a sustainable cycle of agriculture. Something that endures without detriment to the land or water or communities where they live. Yes, Iowa farmers grow crops that they feed to animals that produce manure, which then fertilize the crops. It's farming. But how do they make sure it's sustainable and benefits all? Today's ChopTalk begins with a trip to a beautiful farm in northeast Iowa. I'm here with Ben Johnson on a lovely, mostly sunny, but still kind of chilly day on your family farm outside of Ireton. It's gorgeous to be here. I love this farm. It's beautiful.
Well, thank you very much, Lori. Yeah, we take a lot of pride in keeping it up, and I'm the fifth generation on the farm. So yeah, I have a lot of pride in keeping it in top shape.
It is gorgeous. Now, how long have you been here? How long have you been farming?
I've been here farming with my wife Janelle for about 14 years now. We've got one son, about 16 months old, Noah. So yeah, we're continuing on the generational family farm here. Hopefully this summer I'll be getting a new group of baby pigs in here in June sometime. So we're planning to bring them up there to let them experience the baby pigs at that point.
So it's probably like you've been working with pigs since you were able to walk, I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah, like I said, I'm the fifth generation here on the farm. My dad had pigs, so we had sows growing up, so I was around the baby pigs too as long as I can remember, and that's kind of how I got started with it.
And those are your barns just up the hill there, right?
Yes. Yep. So it's changed a lot in the last 25, 30 years since when I grew up. It's gotten more mechanized, I guess, the way we raise pigs. But yeah, the overall caretaking we provide for the pigs has remained the same over all those years.
Well, tell me about it too. Now, pig farming is just one of the hats you wear. You also grow their feed.
Yeah, so we're crop farmers also. We raise corn and soybeans primarily. And yeah, it's a very sustainable system. The corn that we grow gets harvested, delivered to our local feed mill, which gets ground into the ground corn that the pigs eat, and then it gets delivered back out as feed. We grow the pigs to produce the bacon and the ham and everything you find in the store. And then yeah, the pigs produce that manure, which we return back to the field as fertilizer, which grows the next year's crop. So yeah, it's a very, very sustainable system.
And has it always been that way?
It has been, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the pigs have always produced manure. We always feed the crop back to the pigs, and the pigs produce the food for us.
Now, how do you know how much? I imagine with all the pigs that you raise, you've got a lot of manure that you can put on the land, but how do you make sure you're doing it right? I know there's a science to it, and you guys you have to take classes and get certified and all that sort of stuff too.
I'm also a custom manure applicator, so I do 3 hours of training every year to get certified to do that. The manure gets applied to only fields that have been soil sampled to make sure the nutrient level isn't too high, and then you can apply that manure accordingly. And also, in addition to the soil being tested, the manure is sampled also for its nutrient value, so you're not over applying the manure. We try to spread the manure out over as many acres as we can to not concentrate it into a certain area or certain field every year. We try to spread it around.
So certain animals have different types of manure, different quality of manure, and I suppose everything's a little different.
Yes, everything's a little different. Primarily swine manure is all liquid, so it's primarily pumped with liquid pumps and tankers, or in some cases umbilical systems. You see if you'll drive out in the country and there's a bunch of hoses running out in the field, and that's probably an umbilical system. Otherwise, you'll see tractors and tanks out in the field applying that manure. Swine manure is all injected into the ground. It's not top applied, so it can't escape anywhere. It can't run into creeks or waterways at all. We make sure it's placed in the soil where it can't escape anywhere.
And for people who maybe can't visualize this, the injected thing, because nowadays with vaccinations being top of mind, it's just a couple inches under the ground. That's all.
Yeah, a little deeper than that. The injectors that I have, it's basically a rolling disc blade that cuts a slot in the ground up to maybe 7 to 8 inches deep, and then the manure is put in that slot, and then there's covering discs that cover the slot back up as you go through the field. And yeah, that manure is all applied. There's flow meters on the tanks to make sure you're not overapplying. There's a rate controller on there to make sure you're putting the correct amount on the land.
That's incredible. When you think all the bells and whistles, it's really scientific.
It is, yeah. And in addition to that, we use GPS software and mapping systems to document where that manure went. I have to keep records for 5 years of all the fields that I apply manure to, and then I get audited by the DNR every 5 years to make sure that I'm following what the manure management plan for each site says.
So you get audited by, the DNR is in touch with you, and you have that good working relationship with them, and that's because of your job as a custom applicator?
That's correct, yes. But in addition to a custom applicator, each site owner goes through an audit every 5 years as well to update their manure management plan. They have to get new soil samples for all the land that the manure is applied to, and they look at all the application records for the previous 5 years to make sure they've been following the plan that was set in place.
Did you have any idea when you were growing up that you'd be?
No, it's changed a lot since when I was growing up. We just loaded, we weren't dealing with liquid manure at that time. It was all dry, but we just kind of loaded up the manure spreader back then, and you just go out in the back 40 and start spreading. And back then, I think just for the ease of getting the work done, maybe some of that manure probably was concentrated too much right around the acreage or right around the building sites. So now we're trying to spread it out farther away from the sites to not have those concentrated fertilizer analysis be in those areas, I guess.
Sure. Well, and that's why, that's science and technology and innovation makes everything better.
Mm-hmm.
Even in one of Iowa's oldest industries, agriculture, pig farming. What do you think your grandpa would say? 5 generations. What do you think he would have said? Was he out there with all this equipment?
Well, my grandpa's still with us. He turned 100 last fall. So
God bless.
He's seen everything from horse-drawn plows to the first tractors he owns a Model T yet, and then all the way to the equipment, the new mechanized equipment that you see today, and the auto steer tractors and all that stuff. He has seen it all, and it's a little overwhelming, but it's just the way agriculture's been going, I guess.
And when you think of that, though, what do you think is the biggest misunderstanding that folks who don't farm, who've never been on one, might have about pig farming when it comes to sustainability?
I think a lot of it, people maybe think that everything is swayed by economics, and that is a portion of the decision making we have to make, but it's definitely not everything. We try to be very environmentally friendly. So I've do some community outreach as well. I'm on the local county pork producer board, and we do grillings throughout the summer at our county fair here. We do grill pork chops and pork loins, and really try to promote pork. It's a healthy source of protein, relatively cheap, and we just try to do a good job of getting that out in the community. We support them. We do scholarship programs and other donations as well.
So it's another part of that picture of sustainability, right? So helping the community, helping the land, helping the animals.
Yes.
That's excellent. Okay. Well, Ben, thanks so much for sharing your time and sharing a little piece of this beautiful piece of heaven.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Thank you.
Ben is right. Farming has changed a lot since his grandfather's day. It continues to evolve. Folks who've been farming for a couple of generations also remember what it was like in the good old days of pig farming. For that side of the story, we go to the other side of the state, to Mike Deere's farm in eastern Iowa.
My granddad had a little 40-acre hobby farm, and he hauled manure 2 or 3 times a year, and the manure was spread as close out the back door as he could get rid of it. There was only one thing in Grandpa's mind, is how fast can I get done with this job? Fertilizer was not even considered. And so That's 3 generations ago, and I suppose you could add another one in there for my family, my kids. But that's just how far row crop and swine farming has come. We do not treat this. Grandpa didn't care if it happened to be spread next to a creek. It wasn't part of the consideration. It didn't, nobody's mind was in those directions. There were no pits to control it. If it rained 10 inches of rain and it just happened to run down to the road ditch to the creek, that's just the way it was.
Now things are different. Iowa pig farmers today have learned they have to hold the manure and carefully apply it to be sustainable. Innovative farmers are always looking for ways to measure what they take off and what they put on their land. They embrace innovation to make sure it's done right. For example, the way farmers hold manure today is different than in our grandparents' day. They hold the manure in specially designed weatherproof structures or covered pits so that it can be gathered and carefully applied to crops where and when the nutrients from manure is needed.
We own the buildings of. I take somewhere between $1,200 to $1,500 worth of manure samples every fall and every spring, and that's what guides us for every building, every pit for the rates that I put on next fall. We don't use textbook values. We use proven values, multiple places in the storage facility, and in some pits we start out at higher rates and end at lower rates because we know that some pits are harder to agitate or have their composition is different. We need to put more on in the beginning and less on at the end out of the same pit, all validated by years of testing. So we manage this. And so no manure goes to waste. No manure is over-applicated. Our different pits, some finishing pits due to water-saving efficiency. So that's what we do every year. When we put it on with a drag line in August, we have it planned out how many gallons per acre on which field, and everything is laid out in a spreadsheet in August before we apply. And so we're even going to the point on energy efficiency. We've invested in a ventilation system that is really what I call an information system. They're computers. I can pull it up on my cell phone. I can tell you at all the facilities that we own and several that we contract with what the wind speed is at that farm, what the outside temperature is, what the inside temperatures are. I can tell you what the fans are running. So what this weather vane does is we have it set at a miles per hour for the wind. So when the wind gets moving that miles per hour, the fans shut off and it goes into natural ventilation so that we're not burning any electricity. So those are just recent advancements in technology.
For today's pig farmers, sustainability begins not just at the back end, so to speak, but from the moment new pigs are born.
And in the pig industry is going away from heat lights for babies at birth. We now use and have for a long time all heat mats that are on regulated sensors that go up and down with the temperatures that we set, saving as much as 50% of the energy that's used to keep baby pigs warm, for their entire life. There's just, if I could lay my electricity bill out over the last 30 years on a per pig basis, it would be amazing the advances that the pig industry's made.
I know you've heard me say it, but every aspect of pig farming today involves a team of highly trained people. People who specialize in animal care, like veterinarians, as well as engineers who look at comfort and safety of the pigs and the people working in the barns. But it also includes folks who work on the land surrounding the pig farms. People like Tom Hillier, a certified crop advisor. And we're joined now by Tom Hillier, who is a certified crop specialist, who is on the road quite a bit. In fact, you're calling us from your car right now in Johnson County, aren't you?
Yeah, I am out in the field right now.
Excellent, excellent. Well, tell me, I know that since our goal is about, we're talking about sustainability of agriculture, pig farming in particular, that is your job, is making sure what goes on the field is sustainable. It's good for the land, it's good for the crops, it's good for the people, you know. Tell me what it is that you do.
Well, along those lines, in my crop consulting business, I also incorporate that with soil sampling, precision soil sampling. I've done that since 1996. And it was an effort to just try and find the variability of all the different nutrients that we have in the landscape, and which is very variable. And then along the line, as technology improved since 1996, we're able to place those nutrients better so that we avoid the high spots, increase our low areas, and now it's starting. That was easy at first with liquid and dry fertilizers, and now we're actually getting in where we can do some of that with swine manure as well.
And I know that it is a science. I mean, a lot of it is measurement based too. I mean, tell me how you do figure out what's on the field and how much and where it needs more.
Well, in terms of the science, I lean on Iowa State University and other universities to try and find what sufficiency levels we need to raise a good crop and to not be deficient, or chances of being deficient are low. And so then we identify those areas as areas that need crop removal type levels of nutrients or more to build them a little bit, and try and avoid the areas that are very high from, say, past history, or they just didn't raise a crop very well, and lower the nutrient levels there.
And, innovation, and every year things improve and more is known and more is taught. And you're part of that leading edge of helping farmers do the right thing.
Yeah, I really wish that as we go forward, the universities could even get more involved in looking at some of the nutrient levels that, give us a better percentage chance, where are we at, could we avoid it this year or what?
Well, yeah, when you think of that whole weather picture, considering the farmers, I mean, a single farmer you work with would have a couple of fields, and it'd be this one field got tons of water, which would affect that, right? And the other might have had nothing. So, right, you give them a different prescription for each one?
In terms of the nitrogen aspect, if we're getting a lot of rainfall in a certain year, we know that we probably have lost some nitrogen, although we may do some soil sampling to try and define that, or just actually looking at the crop and seeing if it maybe isn't as green as it should be.
So, they need to understand that it is so precious and valuable and carefully measured. And too much is not a good thing either, and farmers don't want that.
No, too much is not. And it's a precious resource because actually with swine manure, we're putting on P and K and micronutrients and nitrogen. And so we want to supply that for the entire field. And it's not just a one product like just nitrogen, but also people that are applying commercial fertilizers, it's very expensive. And as corn and beans go up, so do the cost of fertilizer. And so, you have to be judicious about it. And, that's one thing I think that really drives us is the farmer wants to put on no more than they need. And we just have to find good ways to put it on so it stays put.
Right.
We're making progress there.
That's good. Well, my last question is about sustainability and, how things used to be, because you said, you work with Mike and several other folks and you've seen things change with the science and the testing and the application and the hybrids and all these things. But when people talk about, we got to get back to the good old days, and you and I have been around the block, but how would you say about that when people say we need to go back to what it was?
Well, I think we've making vast improvements in loss of soil for the main thing. And, farmers that have young people in their operation, their sons, their daughters, they want to maintain what they have for them. And when people are going to look at land, to buy land now, they're looking at, are the waterways good? Is a tile functioning, was this treated well over the years? And so I think that people are really treating the farm more preciously about soil loss, which goes right down the line to nutrient loss. And so we're doing a better job.
Clearly, we all need to think about not just how we do our jobs, but how we measure success. Do we produce something, create a product or a service that benefits others, that lasts? Sustainability is about more than profit. It's about the future and a way of life. On the next Chop Talk, a look at Iowa's role in feeding the world. There are other countries, other cultures that enjoy pork, and maybe not just the cuts we're familiar with here in Iowa. Don't miss that story on the next Chop Talk.